Welcome to the Marriage BattlePlan podcast, where we believe marriage doesn't have to suck. Marriage is a battlefield, and when you understand how a battlefield works, you'll understand how to make your marriage work. All right, my name is Brian Fleming, and I'm here with my wife,
Jamie Fleming.
Jamie, and we want to talk to you in this podcast. We're going to show you how to use proven military battle strategies, communication strategies that we actually use in the military on the battlefield to communicate. We're going to teach you how to use those and integrate those into your marriage relationship so your marriage will make it. That you can have a more fulfilling relationship. You can get on the same page and stay on the same page, have less friction, and actually enjoy being around each other. Now, Jamie and I, we've been around for about 15 years. We've been married over 15 years now. And, we've realized that a lot of couples struggle to get on the same page. Mm-hmm. And at Marriage BattlePlan, we teach couples how to communicate clearly using those same proven military battle strategies so their marriages will make it. And so, Jamie, we didn't have the most normal big origin story in our marriage, did we?
No.
When did we get married? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we met on the internet and on a pen pal website. And that was kind of when it was the most popular thing to do.
2004. I had to make sure she wasn't a dude.
2005.
5.
And we got married. Like, we met in February, and then we were married in December of that same year. And he deployed 3 months later.
Yeah, so it's interesting because when I deployed, I was with the U.S. Army's 10th Mountain Division, and I fought the war in Afghanistan. I was a team leader in an infantry platoon. And, over the past 13 or 14 years, I've been an author and speaker. I've been writing books on human resilience. I've been speaking all over the world. And that all came about because I was in 2 vehicles that were blown up and totally destroyed in Afghanistan back in 2006 when I was there. And the first one, I sort of got injured, but not really. I stayed on the mission. But the second one just about killed me when a suicide bomber pulled his minivan right up next to my door, hit the clicker, everything went off. I spent 14 months in the medical center, Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, Texas. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I here, Jamie, we had been married only 3 months before I deployed to the war in Afghanistan.
Yep.
And I'm happy to say I got me a good Texas girl. See, I'm from Michigan, so when it comes to Texas, I just want to let you all know from Texas, when it comes to your women, y'all make them good down here. Because we'd only been married 3 months. And after I was injured, Jamie stayed with me the entire time. And we're still happily married today, over 15 years later. And that's not always the stories you hear about military marriages, especially if you've been to war. So when I was at the medical center, what were some of the issues that we dealt with?
Oh, gosh. Well, you had a lot of PTSD from the war. So there were things like nobody could come up behind you and it would scare you.
I'd want to throw a punch them.
Yeah.
Someone comes up behind you and slaps you on the shoulders. Just
yeah.
That was hard.
A really big one for you was we could not have the shower curtain closed. It always had to be open in the bathroom. Because you said you always have to know what was behind it. I always felt kind of like I was walking on eggshells. I never kind of knew what was going to set you off in those moments. I remember one funny story. It's funny now. It wasn't then, but it's so funny.
Of many.
You had gotten back from the grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
With a gallon of milk.
We lived in Benbrook, Texas, which is southwest Fort Worth.
And he'd gotten back from the store. It was dark.
First house we ever bought.
Our first house. It was dark outside. And I was like, oh, he's home. So I went up to the window, and that's where it kind of right near the window was some bushes. So only about probably this much of me really showed.
And the window was about arm's length from me, over the bush. So when she did this, it was like somebody was right here.
So all I did was I knocked on the window. I was like, hey. And
she peeked out the curtains.
And he took that jug and he chunked it at the window, and of course the window shattered because he threw that gallon of milk right there in the window.
I was dark and I didn't know. And it was crazy because suddenly there's somebody right next to me in the dark I didn't, and you're looking at me, and it wasn't I knew it was her. I didn't know it was her. I just saw a shadowy figure And then I realized they were looking at me, and it was instinct to just, whatever. So, like, I don't know if you have those kind of issues you deal with in your marriage. But if you have that, or not as bad, then you're probably going to enjoy this kind of stuff. Because we both dealt with issues. The thing is, we had to really adapt to each other. Because something I've always said is that you married one man and ended up with another.
Yeah.
And, that's something that over the years I've actually apologized to Jamie for. But, it's just, war changes people. But what a lot of people don't realize is that Jamie had to fight her own war. She, when I was gone, is her husband coming home? What was that like?
Gosh, I don't know, every day, I don't know, every day I was hoping and praying that he would be home. Just please make him be home safe. And it was awful just not knowing, the uncertainty of, is he going to be okay? Is he going to come home, or is he going to come home hurt? I just didn't know what to expect. And that was really rough.
Yeah. So the whole point here is that we've fought our own fair share of battles. And like we said already, our goal with this podcast is to help you address your battles, not by putting your battle within the context of our story, but by us inserting the elements of communication that we learned in the military into your story, so you can have a better story here in your relationship, and so that you can win the battles you're facing, not against each other, but you can win side by side together in your marriage.
And I know one thing I was going to add was just that, for me as a small child, being abused sexually by uncles as a kid, that brought my own mess into that marriage, that we had to go through and overcome.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you have a spouse and you marry them and you think you know them, and then there are little things and you think, why are they doing this? Why are they this way? Or they didn't act this way before. But, as people grow, they actually change. We actually all change. And I'm glad I'm not the same now as I was when I was 13, because that would be awfully pathetic. But people grow and change. People don't realize that when they get married, this person is going to change over the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years. And that's not always a bad thing, but you have to grow with their change, and you have to grow together.
Absolutely.
Instead of letting those changes become these little ambushes and enemy attacks between you that divide you. Because if the enemy can divide you, they can conquer you, and you gotta grow together and to stay together. And so I totally sounded like a motivational speaker right there. Grow together to stay together. By the way, I am a speaker. But I hate the little motivational quotes that rhyme. You'll never hear me say them. All those ones you hear from every speaker out there.
If you can wish it, you can make it.
Oh, if you can dream it, you can do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Had a little wrong, but anyway.
That's realistic. Okay. But anyway, we all fight our own battles, and we're here to help you win yours. We are, thankfully, a story that hopefully can inspire you. And look, we're just normal people on this podcast. We're not really scripting any of this. It's just off the cuff. We want to help you communicate clearly using a lot of the same things that we know. Because here's the deal. In this podcast, I know how to plan and carry out missions. The military trained me how to do that in a combat zone. And the thing about when you plan a mission is that when you plan it, you only plan the elements that are most important, and you filter everything else out that doesn't need to be there. Because the consequence of failing the mission can be death or capture, which in some cases could be worse than death. But winning means you get to go home to your family. Your friends don't die, or you don't die. So it's very, very important. These same concepts translate over into marriage. And so when you know how to communicate clearly, you can win more of the battles you face. And, we'll talk more about the different elements of the battle plan as we progress in this series, in this podcast. But I'm going to tell you right now, one of the big things we find is that a lot of married couples, they think their spouse is the enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they think their spouse is the enemy. And I always say about 1% of them are probably right. Because about 1% of you married a complete psychopath. And there's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah.
But in most cases, that's not you. And what we find, and we'll talk about this again, identifying the real enemy in your marriage is one of the actual key points in the marriage battle plan. a lot of married couples are shooting at each other like they are the enemy.
Yeah.
When in reality, the real enemy is influencing them against each other. And once they realize who the real enemy is out here, they can align themselves, face the real enemy, and close with and destroy that enemy together.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, so look, we're just normal people. We've had some ups and downs in our marriage. We've had a pretty tragic and unique story. Not just my war injury, but things we've overcome internally, things Jamie's overcome, from your past. I know you suffered quite a bit of abuse as a kid growing up. I mean, she has a story of her own, but she's gotten past a lot of that, and I'm proud of her. And today we are moving forward helping other couples just like you. So click that subscribe button, and that'll let us let you know how you can win the battles in your marriage every week when we have a new episode come out about a new element of the battle plan and how you can apply it right now directly into your life and to marriage so you can communicate clearly. Because again, when you understand how a battlefield works, you'll understand how to make your marriage work. So click subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.